Let's take a look at some of the things some prominent and not so prominent ex-Trump voters or never Trumpers have to say about Donald Trump. Not only from the Democratic National Convention, but from everyday households all across the country.
I have an urgent message for the majority of Americans who, like me, are in the political middle. John McCain's Republican Party is gone, and we don't owe a damn thing to what's been left behind. So let's turn the page. Let's put country first. Let's put adults in the room where our country deserves.
Being inside Trump's White House was terrifying. But what keeps me up at night is what'll happen if he gets back there. The guardrails are gone. The few adults in the room the first time resigned or were fired. I grew up in the kind of working family that Trump pretends to care about. Conservative, Catholic, Texan. July 4th was our most sacred holiday. Those values made me a Republican. And they're the same values that make me proud to support Kamala Harris. Not because we agree on every issue, but because we agree on the most important issue: protecting our freedom. So to my fellow Republicans, you aren't voting for a Democrat. You're voting for democracy. You aren't betraying our party. You're standing up for our country.
So let's get the hard part out of the way. I am a Republican. But tonight, I stand here as an American. An American that cares more about the future of this country than the future of Donald Trump. My journey started to this podium years ago when I realized Donald Trump was willing to lie, cheat, and steal to try to overturn the 2020 election. I realized Trump was a direct threat to democracy, and his actions disqualified him from ever stepping foot into the Oval Office again. So I'm going to focus my attention on the millions of Republicans and independents that are at home that are sick and tired of making excuses for Donald Trump. If Republicans are being intellectually honest with ourselves, our party is not civil or conservative. It's chaotic and crazy. And the only thing left to do is dump Trump. These days, our party acts more like a cult worshiping a felonious thug. Look, you don't have to agree with every policy position of Kamala Harris. I don't. But you do have to recognize her prosecutor mindset that understands right from wrong, good from evil. She's a steady hand and will bring leadership to the White House that Donald Trump could never do. Let me be clear to my Republican friends at home watching. If you vote for Kamala Harris in 2024, you're not a Democrat, you're a patriot.
I wasn't just a Trump supporter, I was a true believer. I was one of his closest advisors. The Trump family became my family. I spent Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's all at Mar-a-Lago. I saw him when the cameras were off. Behind closed doors, Trump mocks his supporters. He calls them basement dwellers. On a hospital visit one time when people were dying in the ICU, He was mad that the cameras were not watching him. He has no empathy, no morals, and no fidelity to the truth. He used to tell me, "It doesn't matter what you say, Stephanie. Say it enough and people will believe you." But it does matter. What you says matter, and what you don't say matters. On January 6th, I asked Melania if we could at least tweet that while peaceful protest is the right of every American, there's no place for lawlessness or violence. She replied with one word: no. I became the first senior staffer to resign that day. I couldn't be part of the insanity any longer. When I was press secretary, I got skewered for never holding a White House briefing. It's because, unlike my boss, I never wanted to stand at that podium and lie. Now here I am, behind a podium, advocating for a Democrat. And that's because I love my country more than my party. Kamala Harris tells the truth. She respects the American people, and she has my vote.
He cannot be the next president. Because if he is, all of the things that he attempted to do, but was stopped from doing by responsible people around him at the Department of Justice, at the White House counsel's office, all of those things he will do. There will be no guardrails. And everyone has been warned. After January 6th, after our investigation, after all of the evidence that we laid out about all of the steps in his multi-part plan to overturn the election, there can be no question that he will unravel the institutions of our democracy. So we are facing a moment in American politics where we have to set aside partisanship, and we have to make sure that people who believe in the Constitution are willing to come together to prevent him from ever again setting foot anywhere near the Oval Office.
The Republicans have really lost the last three elections. It's really a ticket for losing. You know, Trump said, you're going to get tired of winning. No, the Republican Party should be getting tired of losing. And let me remind everybody, the Republican Party was my vehicle, never my master. I'm an American long before I ever thought of myself as a Republican. I happen to be a Republican because I believe that government has a place, but it usually should be a last resort, not a first resort. And do I think that somebody could beat this guy? Well, the party's going to have to wake up and decide whether they want to win. If they don't want to win, they keep doing this, they're going to keep losing. And if Trump runs for president, God bless us if he would run. I don't believe he could win. And thank God he would lose, because this is the wrong direction for our country. And if you happen to be a Republican, it's a wrong direction for the party and for conservatism.
I don't think that it can be defended. What happened on January 6th was an effort by people who stormed a building in an effort to stop an election. I wish that as Republicans we had a nominee that I could get behind. I certainly can't get behind Donald Trump.
And you don't have unity when you refer to Republicans like me as a rhino who's been in this party for over 50 years. You don't have unity when you disavow and break apart the very foundations of a once proud party based on the principles and ideas of Lincoln and Eisenhower and Reagan and Bush. You don't create, this space for unity when you allow authoritarian, white nationalism, illiberal behavior to overwhelm and consume the very foundations of your party. So y'all need to check the unity conversation amongst yourselves first before you bring it to others, because that's where the disunity is. It's not with me. I was winning elections, right? What did you do? Well, I mean, we made a public policy case on Obamacare, right? We made a public policy case on foreign policy. We haven't been making any public policy cases on anything. We've just been showboating. You allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to show up in the House and disrespect your own House and wear the Republican brand by wearing some dumb behind cap on her head. So come on, folks, let's be real about what it is and what it isn't. And what it isn't is what the stuff that myself and a lot of others have been fighting for. Look, I'm at a table with people that I would love to engage on public policy about, but we're talking about your dumb, stupid stuff, right? So this is the reality that you put us in. So unity, it's a two-way street. Y'all need to work on your end of the block because it's messed up as hell.
It should come as no surprise that I will not be endorsing Donald Trump this year. During my presidential campaign, I made it clear that there were profound differences between me and President Trump on a range of issues, and not just our difference on my constitutional duties that I exercised on January the 6th. Donald Trump is pursuing and articulating an agenda that is at odds with the conservative agenda that we governed on during our 4 years. And that's why I cannot, in good conscience, endorse Donald Trump.
Historically speaking, all of his tendencies are, basically where narcissism takes him, which is whatever makes him popular or makes him feel good at any given moment. And he doesn't think in classical liberal conservative terms. He thinks in an authoritarian way. And he's been able to get a big chunk of the Republican base to follow him because, he's the culture warrior.
Like, honestly, I wish they would just say that they like it. Because it's been 5 years now. You know exactly what you're getting with this president. He has defended white supremacists time and time again since he came down the damn escalator. I can't tolerate this sense of oh, I'm being uneasy, or oh, I wish in the next debate he would phrase things better. This is Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wants to condemn somebody, he'll condemn them. He calls us human scum. I'm just so sick and tired of these people who are expressing unease privately. He calls Joe Scarborough a psycho and a murderer. Like, saying sure is not a condemnation. Saying there are fine people on both sides is not a condemnation. You know who he is. If he wanted to condemn them, he would. He doesn't want to condemn them because he likes them, because they're voting for him. So that's it. If you want to be on board with him and on the white supremacists, then be on board with them. But don't whisper that you're uneasy. Give me a break. Donald Trump has had a million chances to condemn white supremacists, to call them the same names he calls all of us in the media and never Trumpers and immigrants. That's why they don't want to talk about it. They're ashamed. They should be.
My name is Paul. I'm from Florida. I'm a former Trump voter and will never vote for that man again. He is a convicted felon. He is an adjudicated rapist. He was a horrible leader. I have 2 daughters. He is not anybody I would ever let walk my dog, much less let my children look up to. President of the United States should be above that fray, and that guy is not. January 6th was a turning point for our country, and it should not be forgotten. That was Trump's fault. I blame him. I take it personally, and he should never be allowed anywhere near the Oval Office again. He deserves to be in a jail cell. And the fact that that guy is talking about pardoning those people, nope, I'm out. But beyond that, we have somebody to vote for. We have a vision for the future. We have a competent leader who is young, who is with it, who can deliver a message, and who will perform on the world stage. And in 2024, I will be voting for Kamala Harris, no question.
Hello, my name is Mikhail Smith. I'm from Florida. I'm also a Navy veteran. I voted for Trump in 2016. And after I saw the disaster that was and how it split the country dramatically over racial, political lines and more, I can't find the morals in truly anyone that would vote for him at this point, but it's absolutely something I can't do. I don't think as the party of law and order that we should be supporting someone that clearly is a criminal. I think they should be in jail. As a Navy veteran, the security of our country and how veterans are treated is very important to me. Now, with that said, what he said about the soldiers buried, I believe it was in France, about being losers and suckers. I can assure you there is no serviceman out there in this country that's ever fought for us that is a loser or a sucker, much less one that gave their lives to ensure you had freedom. That is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard from anyone, much less a president at the time. That is just beyond the pale. I am very fearful that the American democracy will end if Donald Trump is elected. My life is better under this Biden administration than it was under Donald Trump. And at this point, my vote has to be more about defeating Donald Trump than supporting Joe Biden.
your involvement with that apparatus?
Well, right now, my focus is really not with that. I mean, I've lent them my name because I believe that she is a better choice for our country than the ex-president is. I mean, the Republican Party, as I knew it, the one I grew up in here in New Jersey, was one that believed in the rule of law, would never have accepted January 6th or excused it, believed in the fact that you had transfer of power after an election. Once an election was over, it was over. It wasn't misogynist. It wasn't racist. Those are all the things we're seeing in Donald Trump and have seen over the years in him. And I just don't believe that he has what it takes or what we want to have in our presidency. And I believe that there are many Republicans who are uncomfortable with him. And I don't know whether they go with Governor Walz's weird, but certainly it's not the kind of approach to governance that with which we're really comfortable.
I'm Janine. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020, and I will not be voting for him in 2024. I do believe that Donald Trump was responsible for the violence that took place on January 6th. I want to see him prosecuted for starting it to begin with before it happened, inviting all those people there, knowing they had guns, knowing they had weapons, sitting in his dining room and refusing to take phone calls from all kinds of generals and people who were trying to make him come out and tell these people to leave. I'm incensed about January 6th. I already didn't like him before 2020, but the events of January 6th absolutely made me know that I would never vote for him ever again. In fact, I would do whatever I could do to go against him.
I'm Matt. I'm from Oklahoma. I'm a registered Republican, and I did vote for Trump. It wasn't the best decision I think I've ever made. In fact, I think it's one of my poorest decisions I've ever made, but that was the decision made, and I got to own it. The scariest thing about his second Trump term is that there will be no guardrails. And he's already insinuated things that he would do, things that would be threatening to our democracy at home, threatening to our power in terms of global standing, economic, political, military. I think we may be witnessing, if we don't check ourselves, the death knell of our democracy. We've got to find commonality. We can have disagreements in terms of how we want to make this nation great, but we got to stop making each other enemies. And he's been the key factor in that. So I would say this could be one of the most important elections that our nation has ever known. You may not like Biden and a lot of his programs, but I would say that some false notion that we will be slipping down some slope of socialism is not going to happen. The greatest, most immediate threat is to the democracy. We can survive 4 years of Biden. I don't know if we can survive 4 years of Trump. There is no question that I will vote for Biden in the upcoming election, merely to protect the democracy that we have.
I'm Carl. I'm from Texas, and I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. In 2016, I was excited. I thought Trump would be the proverbial breath of fresh air, a non-career politician. I felt like he was being exceedingly childish with his social media posts. If he wasn't being the president that I would have expected him to be, I reluctantly voted for him in 2020. If you go against him or what he believes, he'll stab you in the back. And he's not above retribution, and he wants to tear down those that don't agree with him 100%. Trump turned the table over on all of the beliefs that I had incorporated from the Republican Party: freedom of choice, less government. If somebody were on the fence about voting for Trump or not voting for him, I would tell you to dig deep down in your soul, and is this the man who really should be leading this country? And in my opinion, that answer is no. I will not be voting for Trump in the 2024 election because of his desire to be a dictator, because of the lies and disinformation he continuously puts out there, and because of his childish behavior. He does not represent the leader of this country, in my opinion. I will never vote for Trump again.
The second Trump term would be worse than the first.
A second term for Trump would be far more extreme.
It is dangerous, outright dangerous.
I cannot support Donald Trump again.
I'd never vote for him again.
He'll never get my vote, ever, ever.